Hello everyone, welcome back. Here we are on day 9 of my 12 days of Christmas. I'm Christine with Christine Rose Photography, and I'm doing this whole series to help you become a better photographer. Today, we are starting with an idea that is hammered home to me by my business mentor. And it's this idea that you start with the end in mind. Let's take this from a business perspective to start before we dive into photography. So this 12 Days of Christmas mini-series, for example, all started because of this idea to start with the end in mind. I realized I haven't been doing much on social media. Haven't been chatting with the people who I like to talk with on social media. And I thought to myself, well, what should I post? I mean, it's been cloudy for weeks. I haven't taken any new pretty pictures. I don't really want to post the old pretty pictures. What else can I do? What can I give back to the people who interact with me on social media that will be useful for them? And that is the incubus for how this whole thing started. So I said to myself, well, if I don't have pretty pictures to show them, and I mean I do, but they're not new. I don't know. I like to show new pictures. I'm not super keen on digging into old ones. What else could I do? Well, I know how to do this. I know how to educate. I know how to be on camera. So why not something that would help us grow as photographers? And once I had that idea in mind, it was easy. I sat down and I brainstormed all of the different things. And that's how I came up with, okay, we're going to talk about shooting, we're going to talk about gear, and we're going to talk about inspiration. So today's video falls into that last category, the category of inspiration. So how does the idea to start with the end in mind apply to photography? For me personally, pretty much every single image that I take, I pre-visualize. I actually have an idea of how the image is going to look in my head before I ever leave my house. And if you watched yesterday's video, so day 8, and you watched me talk about 3 images. So I had Peggy and the Dark Horse, I had the Mi'kmaq Moon's moonrise, and I had Orion over Cranberry Cove. Those 3 images all pre-visualized, and I used Planet Pro to pre-visualize them like we talked about in yesterday's. But that's not the only way that I pre-visualize and that I start with the end in the mind. This basically overarches over everything that I do. So when I'm going to go out and create an image, first off, I go back. Do you guys remember way back at the start of this, that little mini series that we did? So what is my subject? Why am I taking the photo, and who's looking at my image? So that is always running in behind my head. So what is the subject and why am I creating the image? That's really there. And for instance, I have a photo shoot tonight, fingers crossed, that I will be doing. Hopefully you've already seen images from it because it's in the past at this point that you're watching this. And it's of Orion with a reflection. I've been talking about this for a little bit, really want it to happen. So I already know that I need a place that has a good view of Orion rising up over a body of water. So that is, first off, number 1. I know I need that. So now I can start scouting for places using Planet Pro on my phone. And then with my why that comes into play, it becomes a lot about the landscape and having the viewer be able to interact with my landscape and see into the landscape and feel like they're really a part of it. So if that's the case, well, I know that I'm going to be taking separate exposures for my sky, for my foreground, because the exposure for my sky is not going to have enough data for the exposure for my foreground. So all of this is leading up to how I take the image. Now, I know that since it's Orion and I want to get the beautiful colors in Orion, I'm going to be shooting with my tracker. If I'm going to be shooting with my tracker, I'm going to be shooting multiple images so that I can stack them. Okay, so I'm taking a bunch of photos and then I'm stacking them together. Well, that now tells me that there's some Photoshop work to come into play here. So if I'm shooting with my tracker, especially because I would be shooting around 2 minutes. It's a little bit windy tonight, so maybe a minute. And my foreground will be blurred, so I can't do this in a single shot. So now I'm going to be tracking my images, stacking my tracked images, and then merging those with my foreground. So all of that comes into play with, okay, I know I need to shoot in this manner in order to do this work in Photoshop. And this is something you guys, if I'm saying this and you're just like, whoa, 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 that's way over my head. This is something that I go over in depth in my Photoshop 101 for Milky Way photographers. We go into how to do all of this work on the back end in Photoshop so that when you're actually out and shooting, you know, okay, this is what I have to do in order to have the images that I need to put them together, because now I know how to put them together. And if that even seems maybe a little bit too much, I do have a free training, and it's actually coming up again in January. So you want to get on my newsletter list if you're not already. And it's your Photoshop roadmap. And it basically outlines the whole journey that it takes to get there. Because by having all of that knowledge, I can start with the end in mind. So I know what my end game is. I know how I need to shoot it now. I know how I need to edit. Getting out and actually creating the image is so much easier. I mean, you wouldn't believe how much easier it is to do. So that is what I have for you today. I want you to start with the end in mind. And this brings in a lot of what we've already talked about in this 12 days. So it's talking about, what is your subject going to be? Where is that at? Why do you want to take that shot? That then informs the way that you're actually going to take the shot. That then informs the kind of scouting that you do. So if you have one of those apps, so Planet Pro or PhotoPills, and you're going to be doing some scouting at home or on location, all of this starts to come together. Okay. I hope that this has given you something to chew on, and that it's something that you can start to integrate. Because the more that you do this, the more nights you're going to have where you go out and you create images that you're really happy with. And the less nights you're going to have when you come home and you're just like, that sucked. I didn't get anything. Okay, we have 3 more days. Tomorrow, we're getting a little bit practical. So hop back on with me tomorrow and let me know what you think about this idea. Start with the end in mind. Talk to me, send me a message, put a comment. I would love to hear it. Thank you so much.